Hi guys, my name is Joel. Right now I'm currently on vacation this summer at my grandma's house, and today we're going to be talking about the definition of discipline and talk about it basically.
Yeah, that's great. And so behind the camera is Auntie Ruby, and I'm just here to just have a back and forth chat with, the star of our University Life series. And so going into discipline, can you share like a brief definition of discipline?
I would say that discipline is essentially the idea that you do things that that you need to do despite how you feel towards them. It's just getting what needs to be done, even if it's tedious or exhausting, done because you know how beneficial it is for you and how it can lead to your success.
Yeah, that's a great definition. And I think it's relevant to university life because, I mean, you're a young person, you're going into sophomore year, and frankly, there's probably a lot of responsible things that you don't feel like doing. And so, discipline comes into play in order to get them done, because if we ran by feelings, maybe we wouldn't get anything done,
Right.
or maybe not important things.
Yeah, I think the idea that we kind of feel like our feeling we kind of are tend to negotiate with in our own mindset of like, oh, should I wake up this early in the morning or should I just sleep in because class doesn't start until this time. But we fail to realize that the more that we actually practice these tedious things, the more cohesive they become into our schedules. And the reason why they become cohesive into our schedules is because we're forming habits that we know can help us excel. Like even anything as much as waking up very early in the morning, or or I guess like taking vitamins. Those things that seem tedious, but in the long run they help you out.
Yeah, and so it sounds like good habits play a role with discipline.
Yeah, good habits can help play a role into discipline. They can also help you like mold yourself into being the person that you can at least that you are trying to be in a sort of way, if that makes sense.
So, how does it mold you into the person you want to be? Would you say that it kind of um, puts things into routine, the good habits, and then you kind of end up going on autopilot in a good way as far as, these disciplined, structured days?
I would say yes, because in the sense that in the more you start doing these things in a daily routine, the more organized that you can be. And the reason that it's so good to feel organized is because it's less chaos on your end. Like if you were able to actually like the more you start doing these tedious things on instinct because you started to get used to actually doing it, it helps you become better. And it's things like these that help mold the sort of mindset that people that want to excel, and I would say like hard workers try to have this sort of mindset in a sort of way.
What's mindset and what else? Maybe routine,
Yeah,
maybe going through the motions.
yeah, going through the motions and just finding out that these things are foundational for our way of moving forward.
Yeah. And so, would you say that you've experienced or exercised discipline in the past?
I would say I have in some cases. For example, back in high school, we used to wake up at 5 in the morning so we could leave by at least 6:30 or 7. It was pretty tedious, but the fact is like I started getting used to it a whole lot more. Sometimes I would wake up a little bit before 5 in the morning, and that actually came into play and helped me out a lot as I was actually doing sports such as exercising and doing football and having to wake up and get close to practice. and I was able to also exercise discipline on the field. And
How did you exercise discipline on the football field?
I guess I exercised discipline on the football field by trying to stay attentive and
Learning new things, following directions, challenging yourself, rising to the occasion.
yeah, it was a very new thing to me still at football, and I was only playing with like a lot of my friends that played since they were kids, so it felt pretty odd at first, but the more I started getting into the season, the more I started to actually feel like I was actually becoming a part of something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other examples of you exercising discipline in your life?
I would say I've exercised discipline in a sort of way of waking up early and just making, not just waking up early just for football or high school, but also making sure I get something to eat. For example, back in high school when I was with my family before I went to college, I would actually wake up earlier than the rest of my family, apart from my dad who woke up very early. But I would basically wake up, and sometimes I would make myself breakfast, but I got into the habit of making like my other family members breakfast. Like if they were sleeping in, I would just put a plate of their food on the table with foil on top of it.
So that's an example of discipline in that you didn't necessarily want to do that. You didn't necessarily want to do those things, getting up early, because you're not really a morning person or a breakfast person. I think you prefer to kind of skip that morning meal, but you learned that that's actually important in order to have brain power and stamina. So then you were getting up earlier than others, but then you took it a step further to make breakfast for the rest of the family. And again, it goes back to discipline because you were having to push past your laziness, push past fatigue, push past it being new.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was just trying to push past barriers had that I had.
Maybe push past bad habits, maybe push past, and not necessarily bad habits, but outgrow, previous habits like skipping breakfast, never taking vitamins beforehand, waking up last minute, but then you had turned all of that around. And so those are kind of like physical examples of discipline, but then they kind of added to you playing a little better in football, being more alert for your long days on campus. And would you say so?
Yeah, I would say that these things kind of like felt like a foreshadowing of not yeah a foreshadowing or so of what would come from college, because I was thinking like, oh, high school's like difficult. Right now I'm here in college and I'm like, that is a complete lie. But I think that with those good habits that I did with like those helped build at least a little bit of a foundation for me in college of what I should be doing. And also even just practicing them in college, even though they are tedious, they are still beneficial. Like they're still the same thing. The only difference is that I got older and I'm at school.
Yes. And so last question is, how do you think discipline is going to help you in your upcoming sophomore year of university life?
I would say that discipline is going to help me, that the more I apply it in my school and my academics, I can be changed. Basically, for example, when I mean by discipline changing me, I feel like the more I apply it and the more I get used to it in routine, the more I can excel at my academics. Because I know the type of person that I was in the past, where I was like in high school, if I get a C on this test, I'll be fine. But right now,
I think a lot of high school students can relate to that. Yeah, but it's just not enough.
right.
It's not enough to survive, or rather thrive in university.
Yeah, the whole point of now this semester, I want to feel more changed in that I don't want to walk in the same. I know I've been a student there for a whole year now, but I want to walk in with a different mindset, with a different concept in mind, that I don't want to walk in classes just to survive. I want to walk in to excel. And I feel like I don't want to say that I've trying to like gone from like per se um a C loser to like a winner, because I feel like what I'm trying to be is just go from disciplined to being more disciplined.
Yes.
And I think that's a little bit more
Harder.
difficult than just going from before, where I was like lazy and like a little bit complacent, to disciplined. Because to be disciplined, you have some accomplishments under your belt, and they're pretty difficult to get. Now you have to be more disciplined, where you get more accomplishments that are under your belt than it feels like that are being demanded of you. And sometimes it's easy to feel, I'd say, I was about to say despair, but reality, I think it's actually overwhelming. It's easy to feel like it's overwhelming to a point, because of how it feels like it's all too much at some point.
Yeah, and sometimes it can feel like too much because, sometimes we can be a little arrogant where we're like, okay, I've done this much. Now what? What more do you want from me? God, life, universe, university. But I think we have to get over ourselves, especially if we're going to another level, and then even to another level, and then to another level. And I think it's great to be proud, but we can't be so proud that we can't learn something new. We can't be so proud that we're not open to new experiences. And it sounds like you're just really going for more this semester. And so can we share with your audience some new things that's going to take discipline for you to keep up with moving forward in your sophomore year?
I know that there are some things that I feel like in my moving into my sophomore year that are going to take effort and time, and obviously discipline for me to, I'd say, conquer. For example, I would say studying a lot, having a lot more better study habits, and also reaching out to not just friends, but reaching out to maybe tutors, and asking I'd say like ask like very good friends that I feel like that are trustworthy, and not just trustworthy but good with their academics as well. Because it's one thing to like try to have a study buddy with your friend, but a study buddy with, I remember that this was being said one time for like a group project when I was, I think, in middle school, and they said it's one thing to study with like a friend, it's another to study with a friend that'll help you get what needs to be done. Because I could go to like on campus and chat with all my friends, but at the end of the day I'm supposed to study with them, not like study 5 minutes and then the rest of the hour we just like talk and like play games.
That's so relatable. I think it's very relatable for young students, where especially I think if you're a first generation university student, first generation pursuing higher education, sometimes we're kind of in a desperate situation and would rather have any friend to sit there and study with than no friend. But sometimes that could be even more counterproductive because it's not the best use of time. However, it's very difficult to find friends that can be helpful, whether as a study buddy or I don't know, accountability buddy. That's easier said than done, but that's the goal. To look for those type of friends.
Yeah, and again, these things, like, they're very much not easy to do, obviously, on like the first try. I mean, nobody's perfect. Everybody's got their imperfections. But what I'm trying to say is that these things, as much as they take time and effort, as well as discipline to actually like stay, as you said, stay accountable in these actions, connect with people, take better study habits, and I think I would like to say real quick, going back to that thing where it's like we feel overwhelmed when we have like a lot of discipline and we're being demanded of more discipline, I think it takes humility also to try to yes, it's good to feel proud for what we did, but at the same time, we should always have the mindset still there's I guess there's always room for improvement, because there still can be things that we may lack in that we don't realize. So I think humility, um, time, effort, accountability, all those things with discipline, they can help. They can. They will be. It's like a long process, I'd say, but the fact is, it's a long process because the reward of it is very much worthwhile.
I think well said. Well, Joe, I think that concludes this episode for University Life. Anything else you want to add?
I would say. I would say just. I would just say take better study habits, but also don't forget to connect with people that you know will help you, and you'll realize not just how long the process may be, but at the end of it, you'll realize how rewarding, how worth the reward really is if you really apply it. And the fact is, I'm still in that path too, so I'm still on that journey too. I'm gonna mess up sometimes, but I need to keep going, as well as just as much as anybody does. And that's it.